Okay, hello guys. This is a new video, right? So today we're going to be focusing on weathering, right? And weathering is the process by which rocks are weared away on the Earth's surface by the effects of weather and the atmosphere. Now, in weathering, right, there is no movement, right, of weathered materials, right? So the breaking down of the rock is said to be in situ, right? Which means they only lie on the Earth's surface. There is no form of movement. Now, they are normally moved down slope by gravity, or you would say mass wasting. They are removed by water, right? So, a key definition that we need to know is this big word what they call denudation, right? Now, this is a process by which, well, the name given to all the processes that strip away the surface of the earth, right? So it reveals underlying rocks. Now, it also includes all the processes of weathering, mass wasting, and erosion. Now, this set of processes, it is responsible for the creation of the earth's varied landscape, right? So, today we'll be focusing on the types of weathering. Specifically, well, there are three types of weathering. You have physical slash mechanical weathering, chemical weathering, and biotic weathering, right? So, two elements of climates that normally affect weathering, whether chemical, biotic, or physical weathering, would be temperature and rainfall. So those are the two key elements that affect weathering. However, today we'll be focusing on physical and mechanical weathering. Now, physical mechanical weathering, it results in the breaking up of rocks into smaller pieces with no change in their chemical structure. Therefore, as we can see, the rocks disintegrate. Now, when a rock disintegrates, such as this rock, it's broken up into small pieces like this. And when it breaks up into small pieces, it's said to be in situ, right? situ, situ, because it just stays at one place, right? So during the process of weathering, no movement takes place. No, today we'll be focusing on three types of physical weathering. You have pressure release, as it's already up here. You have pressure release, frost, shattering, frost shattering, and you have temperature change. Sorry about that. Good. You have pressure release, frost shattering, and temperature change. Now, these are the three main types of physical weathering, right? So, the first one we're going to look at is, oh, my arrow is terrible. The first thing that we're going to look at is pressure release. Now, what happens with pressure release? Now, firstly, we need to ask ourselves, what is pressure, right? Now, we could say that pressure is basically force, the amount of force in a particular area, right? Now, let's say we have a surface. So this is a part of the Earth's surface, right? See, we have another layer, some rocks here. I'm just going to put something, right? So pretend that some rocks are right here. And you have some rocks here, right? So they're underneath, right? Now, when pressure release happens, now these rocks, right? All right, so see, this is another layer of the earth. Now, these rocks, They are formed deep underground by magma, or maybe by in the mantle. And these rocks are what we call igneous rocks. Igneous rocks. Because they're simply made by magma, right? Now, these rocks that are built underground, they have the weight of the upper rocks on them. So all that weight is right on their shoulders, right? Now, over a period of time, these rocks above them would be weathered. Then they would be exposed to the atmosphere. So these rocks are then exposed. Now, please bear in mind that when these rocks were pressured or when these rocks were weighed down by the upper rocks, there was a built up in pressure. Now, with a built up in pressure now, since these rocks that were above them weathered away, the pressure is then released, right? Now, because the pressure is released, these rocks expand, right? So they expand. Eraser right here. All right, so say this is a rock. That's one of those rocks that had been weighed down, right? Now, this is the original size of the rock, right? Now, what happens is that this rock expands, so it becomes bigger, right? It becomes bigger. Now, when it becomes bigger, those cracks or creases that have been found in the rock, they would widen. And when they widen, right, this widening of cracks is what we call dilation. Is what we call dilation, right? No, the rocks formed are normally parallel to the surface, right? So let's say a crack is right here. When we say it's parallel to the surface, right? Right? The same distance as the surface, same part as the surface, right? Right here. Then we could say that onion peeling or exfoliation occurs, or onion weathering, because since the cracks dilated, then you would then have like the rock is peeling away like an onion. Think in mind when you're cooking, right? And you have to peel those outside, those leaves off of the onion. The same thing with this, right? So the rock the rock constantly peels and peels and peels, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So when this occurs, we could call this onion peeling, because simply, I don't know, well, I can actually see why they call it onion peeling, simply because the outer layers of the rock have been weathered away, right? So the next thing that we're going to explain is the whole frost shattering. Now, frost shattering normally occurs where there is like periods of warmth and cold, right? Now, for this, when this happens, right, bare rock should be exposed at the surface, and there's little or no vegetation to protect it from weather conditions. Right. So say this is a mountain, right? Draw my mountain here. And this is a big boulder right here, right? No. Say it has a little crack right here. Good? No. What happens when precipitation, right? So during the warm period, right? Or even when the rain falls, right? No, the liquid would seep into these cracks, into this crack, right? Right? This is during the warm period, right? Now the water would seep into this crack, right? Now when the temperatures fall, the water in the rock freezes. And you know that when water freezes, it expands. So therefore, the crack widens. Now, when the crack widens, it has a greater volume, right? So therefore, the temperature would rise. When the temperature rises, then you have more water seeping in, right? Then the temperature falls again, which widens the rock even further, right? Then in the warm period again, this the water seeps back in. Then it expands, creating a wide crack. So this happens again and again and again and again until it breaks the rock into smaller pieces, into smaller fragments. No, by the force of gravity, right? It would form a pile by the mountain, by even this mountain, say, right? So right here, it would form a pile, and you'd call it scree or talus, right? Now, if it is a big, right? If it is a big boulder that has been broken up, then it'd be big like this, like big boulders coming off of the mountain. Then you will call those block fields, right? So you have talus, let me write right here. You have talus or block fields. Now, please remember this. Talus happens when you have small material, right, by the weathered rock, by the foot of a mountain or a hill, right, small fragments. Meanwhile, block fields happens with big boulders such as this. You can also, talus is also called scree, and block fields is also called felsimer. Felsemer. Felsimer. Right, that's how I call it though. Okay, so in the cold regions, right, frost shattering is less common. The temperatures are too low, right? So the fluctuation does not really happen very often, right? So these normally occurs in areas such as the Caribbean or in temperate climates, such as even America, right? Where you have regions or you have seasons of winter and of, you know, of summer, right? So the next one that I'm going to explain is temperature change. Right here. Temperature change, right? Now, this is also associated with the whole process of onion peeling. Now, during the changes, now rocks expand and contract, right? With changes in the atmosphere or with the changes in the temperature of the atmosphere. Now, during the day, or even those times when the temperature is high, when you have high temperatures, the rock would tend to expand. So say this is the original size of the rock. It would then expand to about this size. right? In response to the temperature change, right? In response to the increase in temperature. Now, during the daytime, you could say that the rocks contract, right? So instead of these arrows going like this, right? Hold on a minute. Now, during the nighttime, when you know the temperature would drop, the rock would contract, right? See the arrows pointing inwards to show contraction? Good. Now, when this happens, there is like a constant, expanding, contracting, and eventually the outside part weakens, right? It weakens until it eventually peels off. Now, this process is what we call exfoliation, right? Or what we call onion peeling. I also explained this in pressure release, right? So it basically is the same thing happening. However, the difference between this and temperature change is that, the increase in how it happens. But exfoliation or onion peeling, it happens for pressure release and for temperature change. Good. Now, this causes the rock to disintegrate, right? So that's the end of our video. I hope you learned something, and please don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next video when I'm ready to explain chemical weathering. See you then.